Max, what inspired you to become a coach?
Think I've always been interested in people, working with people in all the work that I've done. But I think for me, the sort of turning point was reaching a stage in my career where I was stressed out, burnt out, didn't have any balance in my life, didn't know how to continue going forwards the way that I was operating, and not having a guide there to support me through that process. And I think what inspired me to become a coach is to be that person for other people, that person that I
Mm.
never had.
And how long did it take you from the idea of becoming a coach?
I sort of flirted with the idea for a little while. And I actually moved into higher education after being a lawyer for a while. And in that space was coaching and mentoring. I really loved that idea of helping people grow and reach their full potential.
Yeah.
And it was then that I started to think, what is it that I actually love about my work? And it's supporting people to thrive. And it's then that I started to firm it up and explore how to get into the coaching world.
You're quite a different kind of guide now to what you were in higher education. Like, how do you find it as a coach rather than as a teacher?
I think what I really liked as a teacher is the sort of pastoral role, supporting people through the academic process. And I think that continues now, that pastoral role on the coaching side.
Mm.
But what I really like now is the subject matter is all around mindset. It's about
Mm.
how to affect change in people's lives as opposed to the academic subjects of law, which
Yeah.
was interesting. But for me, what really lights me up is understanding what makes people tick
Yeah.
and how to help them create lives that they want to live the best version of themselves.
Mm. What's the greatest lesson you've learned on your personal development journey or your journey to becoming a coach?
I think my greatest lesson is that personal development isn't a destination. It's not somewhere we end up at where we've done it's a constant journey. But I would add to that as well, it's a sort of daily recalibration. And that's what I find. And in the work that I do with other people, but also in the work that I do for myself, it's about if we find ourselves coming away from center where we want to be, how do we get back? How do we get back to that state where we feel in
Mhm.
control? We feel like we're on top of things. And
Mm.
it's a daily calibration. It gets easier the more of this work that we do, but it's a daily practice. And I think that's the learning. There's always layers of that onion to peel back.
And that, of course, that's something you and I are very familiar with, and maybe have come to know and accept on some level, and
Mm.
maybe love and enjoy is that it's a process of pulling back. I guess it's interesting that in society in general, we're not really conditioned to think about that. We're just conditioned to think sort of how quickly can I get something, right?
Mm.
How quickly can I reach a destination? We're not really encouraged to think about enjoying the process.
Mm.
When
Mm.
can I have the thing? Not maybe enjoy the process of working towards the thing and then whatever is beyond that. Well, we know that and embrace that. How do you go about helping your clients learn that and maybe embrace that?
I think it's comes firstly with self-awareness, becoming aware of how we're operating. And that in itself is a huge step, becoming aware of what's actually driving these behaviors, what is actually the state of the way that we're operating and how do we want to operate? Where do we want to end up? That self-awareness piece is huge. And then we move into action. And I talk about it as like a toddler learning to sort of walk. You go sort of from baby to toddler with the guardrails either side. You're going to wobble, you're going to fall a little bit, and that's okay. It's about how do we get up and carry on and develop that confidence, that independence to be able to step into this new version of ourselves. And it takes time, it takes practice, but it's perfectly doable. But I think it
Mm.
all starts with that self-awareness.
How does your background, experience, or personal journey help you support your clients?
Originally, I was a lawyer. I was a barrister, and I was regularly appearing in court across the country, involved in trials, lots of late nights, lots of travel, and really, really struggled to find any balance in that career and wasn't given the tools the support to be able to look after myself in that role. And I reached a place of burnout. I suffered from crippling anxiety, panic attacks. And I realized at that point that I needed change. And it took me to reach that bottom to actually get the support that I needed. And I went on a journey of getting the help that I needed. And I think having that understanding of what it's like on the ground in a high pressure industry is really important in this work because it's a very unique type of pressure to work in a high pressure sector with all the things that you're trying to juggle, all the plates that you're trying to spin, and having someone on the other side of the call who genuinely gets it can be really powerful. I think my background there is really important. I'm also now a trainer as well as a coach, so I deliver training in organizations around self-leadership, all about how can we become the most effective leaders of our own lives. All the tools and strategies, all the things that I never had are now giving to other people, and I bring that all into my sessions as well. I would say those two things serve me best.
I love that. And obviously, what we deal a lot with at Simon Tompkins Coaching and a lot of the work that you deliver as part of the work we do together then is around people struggling with burnout, either facing burnout and wanting to avoid it or actually dealing with it. Having been through it yourself, you actually know what it's like. It's people that work with you to know as well that you understand them, right? What's the kinds of challenge that you feel most passionate about helping people deal with?
I think for me, it's where people have reached a stage where they really want to change things up in their life. They've got to a point where they've had enough of the status quo. They've had enough of operating in the same way that they always have. They've been spinning those plates for so long and they're burnt out, they're exhausted, they're ready for action. I think that's the point that I tend to come in and support people and the point that I enjoy the most because I think somebody has to be ready for change
Yeah.
to go on this journey. I reached that point, all of my clients reached that point, and prospective clients maybe listening to this maybe have reached that point as well. But that readiness for change, because I have all the tools and techniques, the expertise to help affect that change in someone's life. But what I need is that readiness from the other person
Sure.
to go.
For the people juggling lots of plates, and if someone's watching this and that resonates with them, what's one key thing you think that can help with that?
I think what we have to do is try and create an island in the week, even if it's just one island to start with, but a space at which we can hop off at and breathe. And most of us that are juggling all the plates, maybe we've got children, we've got work that bleeds into the evening, that bleeds into the weekend. We don't have an island just to breathe. The starting point is creating a space. And that doesn't have to be even an hour. It can be 15 minutes. But the rule is that is your island. That is your space to pause, breathe, reflect, take stock. We're not in it, we're out of it. And I think that is the starting point to create change. We don't have any space, we can't create any change. And what are we deprived of working in high pressure industries? Time, space, energy. I think the starting point has to be where can we find an island? And we can find it with every client that I work with.
Love that. I love the term island as a way of referring to it. That's great because it's immediately calming. There's something about certainly the island I'm picturing. It's really calming anyway.
Like an oasis that you can just park up at.
If someone was considering coaching for the first time, I would love to hear the unfiltered version of what you would say to them.
There's a lot of noise out there around what coaching is, what coaching isn't. And what I'd like to say is we can keep it really simple. Coaching is a modality to help somebody maximize their personal and professional potential. That's it. And in terms of the way it's done, the coach will sit with you as a thinking partner. Again, keep it that simple. What that might involve is the coach asking the client some questions, offering some tools and strategies for the client to help them move forward in their life. The coach is expert in change. The coach is an expert in helping you become the best version of yourself. That's it in its simplicity. I don't think we need to over complicate it more than that. It's incredibly powerful. But I think the sort of definitions and what it is, we can sort of get lost in translation. I think at its core, that's what it is.
If you were going to make a video and the title of
Mm.
the video was going to be why coaching is one of the most important investments you could ever make, what would you say in that video?
I personally don't think that we can put a value on changing our lives, an investment in changing our lives, becoming the best version of ourselves. I think that's priceless. And most of us have the money to buy a new car occasionally when our car breaks or go on holiday somewhere at some point. We have the money to maybe go to the gym. We have the money maybe to go to a yoga class or do something else that keeps us well. But what we're talking about with coaching is actually changing your life, helping you to become the best version of yourself. And I think that in and of itself is a priceless investment to make.
When you put it like that, really powerful. Of course, it's hard for people who haven't been through it to understand what that means because you sort of have to feel it to understand. But you can't really
Mm.
overstate, can you, the importance of making some, sometimes even small, but really significant and important changes in just the way you think and therefore the way you feel and therefore the way you operate. Just those small shifts that they compound over time and have a massive impact on your life.
You can't read the ingredients of the bottle from the inside, right? And that's what a coach does. They help you read your own ingredients so you can figure out what you want to change, what you want to keep, and how you want to maybe add some additions and change things up. You can't do that by yourself. That requires a thinking partner.
And as you're describing it as well, the other thing that comes to me on a very simple level is the importance of prevention rather than cure, right? So many of the things that we do to sort of invest in self-care are treating stress or trying to release tension in our bodies through yoga, through meditation. We're trying to do all these things to sort out the problems or make small sort of interventions throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the year to try and keep us healthy. But coaching's about coming from the inside out, right? And then
Mm.
establishing a way of being and a way of life that means you don't have those problems. You don't get to that place.
There's a huge amount in that. A lot of the things that we do, like you mentioned, are plasters and they're things that we stick on. And they're good plasters. They're things that we should continue doing, like the
Yeah.
yoga, like the gym. But if, like you say, we're not addressing the core, those plasters will eventually fall off. It's about how do we keep those wellness practices, but do that deeper work. These things stick and we can move forward in a meaningful way in our lives and create real change.
Final question. What's your favorite thing about being a coach?
Great thing about being a coach is creating a space, an environment for people to be able to genuinely unmask and bring their full selves to the space to enable them to become that best version of themselves. There's no hiding in the coaching space. And I say that in the most positive sense, that phrase, because the space I create is a very warm, welcoming, safe space for people to unpack and work through their challenges, their limiting beliefs, their things that are holding them back in their life. Being able to sit with somebody and help them to unmask, sometimes for the first time, is a really, really powerful experience. And I know personally what that feels like. I used to wear that mask for so long in my previous career as a lawyer, and didn't have that space to be able to unmask, to be able to provide that to another person is incredibly powerful. And I don't think any of this change work can take place unless we're creating these safe spaces. And we can't get that from a partner, we can't get that from a friend, because as nice as those people may be, they all have an agenda. A coach doesn't have an agenda.
Hmm.
They're independent, impartial. That's the power in that space that's created. That's my favorite thing. Alongside, of course, all the change work and the amazing things and the results
Yeah.
that I get from my clients, but just creating that space and the power I see in that for my clients is quite amazing.
It is a very powerful thing. Right. And it makes me, when you are saying that, it makes me realize how lucky we are to get to do that and hold that space for people.